Welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. In this podcast, we discuss mystical works of literature and how they relate to recovery. We hope you enjoy today's podcast episode.
Hello, this is Buddy C. Welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. Today we have Kate and Libby and Brian and Lou. Good to have you guys. Today we'll be talking about the sixth step of Alcoholics Anonymous as it relates to the Tao. In this podcast, we all practice a 12-step program of some type. We talk about how Taoist thought, Taoist literature, more so than the Taoist religion, helps form our view of the higher power and influence our spirituality. Studying the Tao, you don't have to turn in your Jesus card. You can keep it. The Tao complements. It doesn't divide. That's why I love studying it so much. If you come from a place that compassionate living is how we change, which we find in recovery, the Tao shows this over and over, mainly in letting go. It's example after example of letting go. Before we start with our topic, I do want to cover two things. One, a resource that we have at buddyc.org, a free resource. The one I want to talk about today is Transitions Daily. The email is transitionsdaily.org. You can find it at buddyc, but you can go straight to the website. They provide three things. They provide a daily email that has most of the daily readers for AA, out of AA literature. They have As Bill Sees It, an acronym of the day, Just for Today, daily reflections, 24 hours, a big book quote, all these things in one email. You can sign up for that at transitionsdaily.org. You can also participate in their private Facebook group, and you can use it for the discussion of what is sent in the daily email. Transitions Daily is an online group of AA because they actually send a reading out with a way to discuss the reading. If you just send a devotion, that can't be a group. You have no way to discuss. So we are a group, make regular donations to world services. You can actually see the donations there at Transitions Daily if you want to take a look, see where the money goes, fully transparent. Thirdly, we have a daily podcast called Transitions Daily, where a member of a 12-step group, I think most of our readers, if not all, are AA. They read the actual text that you see in the email. It's not discussion. It's just all the text itself. That's what you'll hear. That's a good way. Have a daily reminder and help with your daily devotions if you'd like. Secondly, we talk about a synchronistic moment, because as we walk this path, we start, I think this goes for most everyone, I know it does for me, and here we've discussed it, we start seeing those synchronistic moments that are happening behind the scenes. And so we like to talk about those. If you're listening to the podcast and you're not able to attend the meeting where we record the podcast, you're welcome to email those synchronicities to me as well at info@buddyc.org, and I will make sure they get on the podcast. Today, our synchronistic moment comes from Lou. Lou, what do you have for us today, sir?
Well, buddy, this is a simple one, but I thought it was interesting, especially since we're on step 6. I was in Arizona for a week or so and came back. I couldn't find two things that I knew I had packed. And one of them was rather expensive and customized, so it was only good for me, but it was several $100s, so I wanted to find it. And I'm racking my brain, trying to think, where might it be? I'm looking all over the house. The other item was just some sunglasses, didn't really matter, but I was annoyed that I couldn't find either one of them. And I'm looking everywhere and looking for places that shouldn't be just to see if it's there. And finally, I'm like, this is step 6. This is admitting your defects of character, letting them go, let God. And we're talking about Taoism, so there's Wu Wei. effortless action. So, okay, doesn't matter if I find them, if I don't find them, no big deal. Doesn't mean a thing. And buddy, about 10, 15 seconds later, I said, I bet I know where that item is. And I go there, and sure enough, there it is. I bet I know where that other one is too. And I go and I look, and sure enough, it's there. So 10 days of racking my brain, worrying this way and that way, can't find those damn things. And as soon as I let go, almost immediately after I let go, popped in my brain where they might be, go to those two places, and that's exactly where they were.
What a great reminder. Thank you, Lou.
That defective character of worrying and being a worrywart, it's hard to get rid of for me, but serves no purpose.
Fear of losing.
Fear of losing, yep. And annoyance. I'm not that old, but I shouldn't be forgetting those kinds of things at early 70s.
Yeah, then you start beating up on yourself and that whole cycle of
just silly stuff, really.
But that's so practical though, Lou. I have learned that too. That I can't find this thing, or I can't, something I should remember and I'm not. You just shrugged your shoulders at it. Like the Taoist farmer. Different things kept happening. Oh, this is good. Maybe it isn't. This is bad. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. And I think what I heard you say that was really good was it doesn't matter. That's what I heard in what you were saying. It's no big deal. And
it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah. That's the letting go. A lot of people in their spirituality would pray and ask God where this stuff is. That's a common thing. I think that a lot of times we can't know where whatever it is that we think we need because we're in the way. It's not that we need something added. We need something taken away. We must decrease, if you want to go Christian, we must decrease so he can increase. In this situation, we just need to step out of the way. How do we do that? We let go of the expectations.
Yes. The Christian, the Buddhist is non-attachment.
We say that whether we believe it or not. It's like almost a statement of faith when I say, this doesn't matter. My head may be screaming, it does matter, it does matter. But if we can just take the action, we'll see that we start aligning with the actions that we take, no matter what those actions are. Brian?
Buddy, I was just sitting here looking at 48 and Derek Lynn, and it says, pursue knowledge, daily gain, pursue doubt, daily loss. And then this part, loss and more loss until one reaches unattached action. With unattached action, there is nothing one cannot do.
Unattached action. That is Wu Wei. Effortless effort. It's effort that's without self-attached. Thank you. Okay. Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Let's talk for a moment how we see the 6th step before we talk about the Tao in it and see if that doesn't help bring some things to light. I see the 6th step personally as the step I know, first of all, I know Bill Wilson said that 6 and 7 are saying the same things. He just said it differently. I know that. But I see them as accomplishing two different purposes, two totally different purposes, actually. And this helps me to see it this way. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. And 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. In 6, we're ready. In 7, we ask, okay, what are we ready to have happen in the 6th step? The 6 is our defect. So we're ready to have God remove all our defects of character. We don't ask for them to be removed. We're just ready. So the whole point of step 6 is getting ready for what? For all of our character defects to be removed, not just one or two, or the ones we don't like, or the ones our wives don't like, or whatever. all our defects of character, ready to have them removed. Are they all removed? Mine are not, but I'm ready. I'm willing. It's willingness. Willingness, I think, is the principle there for the sixth step. So, step 6 is about being willing and entirely ready. It's one thing to be ready, it's another to be entirely ready. I see surrender in this. I see letting go. I see being open. I'll go through a few things about the step, and you guys, if you have something, just let me know. What does entirely ready mean? What is our job in our defects? Not all defects of character. What's our job in getting these defects of character removed? It's to step out of the way, not really accomplish anything, just saying I'm ready. Brian?
Not picking up that rope
Right.
or not throwing those rocks when I want to.
Yes.
Saying, you know what? All these problems, I'm the common denominator. I think I'm going to pause, pump the brakes, and look for another answer.
It's about our defects. In 7, it's about removing shortcomings, which would be the thing, for me, it's the things that I'm not doing that I should be. 6 is my defects of character, the things that I'm doing that I shouldn't. 7 are the things I'm not doing that I should. So there's all kinds of examples you could give with that. I always use the 6, I quit kicking the dog. 7, I start being nice to the dog, loving the dog. Maybe buy him some of that premium food instead of the cheap stuff. Spend money on him. Wow. Libby.
I think it's really wonderful to mention these traits that we need, the willingness and the openness to possibilities. Also, that we're looking at what we can trust. We're trusting our higher power. There's the slogan we use that says, let go and let God. And I have a copy of the Tao translated by Ursula Le Guin, a science fiction fantasy writer who I'm a big fan of. Hers is more poetic, and also it's not in the same order as a lot of the translations because she was looking at different versions of it that have been found in different archaeology situations. Anyway, one of the things that she has in verse 35 that I think relates to this point, that in this step 6, we are pausing, we are surrendering our will, we have to be ready to surrender. In 35, part of the verse says, hold fast to the great thought, and all the world will come to you, harmless, peaceable, serene. So I feel like that part emphasizes that we're ready to have God remove this. We're ready to have our higher power do it. We hold fast to the great thought, and all the world will come to you, harmless, peaceable, serene. Trust.
Thanks, Libby. One thing I want to talk about is what does it mean to have God remove? What does that really mean? Kate?
I wanted to share the first time I ever tried to do the 6th step. I got all mixed up and I became really anxious because I started thinking of all my defects of character and how I had all these things wrong with me, and I didn't understand the step at all. And I just thought there's this huge amount of things that are wrong with me, and everybody's gonna see them, and I have to present them all to other people. I didn't understand it at all. And at the time I was anxious. I was a little anxious reading out loud in front of people. And I became so anxious reading out loud in front of people doing this step that I started having a panic attack every time I started reading out loud in front of people. And that took a while to wear away. But now, the way we study it today under this Taoist premise, it's much easier for me to understand because I won with everything. So it's all okay.
Yeah. It's really about, and the way you're talking about it, Kate, being ready can also mean accepting myself as I am. Because how can I be open to anything being removed if I am still holding on to those things. Even if I'm building a negative picture of myself, I can hold on to some of those things. See, this is who I am. When we realize that none of this is who we are, none of this. I am not my character defects nor my assets. Kate?
I have a good reading from the Tao that fits in right here, I think. It's verse 10. Can you coax your mind from its wandering and keep to the original oneness? Can you let your body become supple as a newborn child's? Can you cleanse your inner vision until you see nothing but the light? Can you love people and lead them without imposing your will? Can you deal with the most vital matters by letting events take their course? Can you step back from your own mind and thus understand all things? Giving birth and nourishing, having without possessing, acting with no expectations, leading and not trying to control. This is the supreme virtue. This struck me as relating to step 6 because for me, I was trying to control all of these traits that I had, put them all, line them all up, and then knock off the ones I didn't like. I wasn't involving the Tao or my higher power in anything, really. I was forgetting that part of it.
Well, Kate, sounds like you were doing what I think we've all done. You're trying to build the you that you think you should be instead of letting go of you.
Yes. And this verse reminds me to calm that all down and just be one with stop trying to control, but also just be one with what I am and who I am and what is.
Can you step back from your own mind and thus
Right.
understand all things? Thank you, Kate. One problem with defects too is sometimes we have to look at payoffs from defects. Some defects we don't want to let go of. Here's a quote from the 12 and 12, page 66. Not much spiritual efforts involved in avoiding excesses which will bring us punishment anyway. But when we face up to the less violent aspects of these very same defects, then where do we stand? What we must recognize now is that we exult in some of our defects. We really love them. This wasn't a big issue for me, but I know of people in recovery that it is an issue with. It says that what we're ready for is to have God remove. We're ready for them to all be removed. Doesn't mean they're removed. Doesn't mean they're all removed. This means we're ready. We've surrendered, open-hearted, open-mindedness. But what are we actually asking? Do we pray and ask God to remove them and they are just removed from us? That has not been my experience. For me, this was a good way to see how this works in all of life. Any defect at any time, what is the process of them being removed? Brian?
Buddy, for me, what comes to mind is I feel like I'm given the opportunity not to use them. I get in these moments and I get a button pushed, and I'm like, I know what I'm going to do. And it happens like that. And then a second or two later, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I feel like I'm given the opportunity, or maybe even that new pair of glasses, to look at things through a different pair of glasses and realize that if I did X, Y, Z, that's not going to yield the results that I want, or maybe not what I need.
Just because we have a thought to do things a different way doesn't mean that we've done something wrong, because my thoughts are not real. They're just a thought. That's why it's so important the actions that we take, not what we're thinking.
I had an instance yesterday and it pushed my buttons. I immediately wanted just to fire off this freaking snarky email, insulting. I didn't do it. And I just said, you know what? I have other options here and I can let go. The person even made an apology. And of course, I'm looking over that. I'm like, no, you're not sorry. If you're sorry, you take care of it. And I just said, you know what? My part in this is to let go of it and not be in fear and torpedo this thing.
Let go or get dragged.
Let go or get dragged right down into the storm drain.
Thank you, Brian. Libby.
I wanted to comment on what y'all are saying about having choices and about letting go of some of our faults, which may have been convenient. Like the capacity to put people in their place sometimes makes your week and your day and your job go better because people are afraid of you and they get out of your way, in my experience. I notice you're talking about how we want to hold on to these in the step 6, which is you're doing now. We're looking very closely forward to step 7. The first word in step 7 is the word humbly. Humbly ask our higher power to remove our shortcomings. Attaining a state of humility is a skill, or it's a thing to do. That's why step 5 is an actual step. It's not just a thing to turn the page and say, okay, yeah, I'm ready for him to remove him. Next, there's things to do during this step. In the big red book, which is from adult children of alcoholics, it puts this in context of step 5 also. And I'm going to read part of this. After completing step 5, we sit quietly and reflect upon our inventory. We notice our breathing and remember to breathe deeply. And then a little later it says, we look at our spiritual beliefs and sense that we have an inner courage that has always been there and which is now emerging. We may have had notions of spiritual beliefs or universal truths before, but now we begin to believe more deeply. With step 5, we have focused on ourselves. We have done something for ourselves that matters and which has spiritual weight. We have inventoried our lives and taken a risk by telling our story to another person. With step 6, we are taking the time to become entirely ready. You are about to humbly ask God to remove your shortcomings. Also, in the Tao of verse 32, I'm looking at Wayne Dyer's book about, his book is about surrender that reflects upon the Tao, and But He Sees Reflections on the Tao is named after surrender also. This is part of verse 32 in Dyer's book. It says, everyone would live in harmony, not by official decree, but by their own goodness. And I see that as you're living with the Tao, you're living with the universal thing, you're living in unity. You're not trying to be a force of your own. You're trying to be in a dance and in a partnership with not just your higher being, but with the whole universe. Dyer says, when we surrender to Tao, look at what you desire to bring into your life. Then, in the context of this sweet verse, feel grateful for everything you encounter. Express gratitude by riding the flow of your existence and allowing it to be your ally. You can steer while still enjoying this glorious ride, but if you elect to fight it, you'll ultimately get pulled under by its current. This is true for every aspect of your life. The more you push against it, the more resistance you create. Surrender, not resistance, is what we need. And again, this flows to something that comes up a lot in this podcast, which is that an attitude of gratitude is your sweet spot. That's where you're alive, living in harmony out of your own goodness and out of seeing goodness by having a gratitude-seeking attitude.
Thank you, Libby. Kate?
For many years in my addiction, I was very docile and a doormat for people. So when I first got sober, I hadn't really experienced a whole lot of being able to safely express my anger to people. So at first in recovery, I was indulging in expressing anger at people safely because I could yell at somebody in a meeting and no one was going to do anything. They might shake their head at me and go, okay, we'll pray for you. Nothing bad was going to come of it. And I had to learn that getting mad and wanting to react like that wasn't the right way either. But overall, I think all the kind of noise in the world and noise in our mind, all that stuff, it doesn't really matter in the overall scheme of things, I guess I would say. In verse 12, it says, colors blind the eye, sounds deafen the ear, flavors numb the taste, thoughts weaken the mind, desires wither the heart. The master observes the world but trusts his inner vision. He allows things to come and go. His heart is open as the sky. And that, to me, speaks of stepping back and seeing what's really important, what's real there. But I had to trust my inner vision. That's really trusting the Tao. It's not really my inner vision there. But in order to trust any kind of any vision, I have to step back and look around at all of it.
Kate, that was the next thing I was going to bring out was one of two things. One was how we actually feel the defect. What do we do when we find ourselves in the throes of a defect? And then before we talk about that, though, I want to talk about God removing what that means. And for me, I've talked about this before. If God is love, which is how I interpret this and how I've experienced it, love's a verb, love's an action. So if love is an action, God is an action. The way I allow God to remove my resentment, I'm going to use the same example that we've used before. What do? I do what's on 552 in the big book, fourth edition. I can pray good things for that person. I can be kind to the person, some way that I can get love or compassionate living into the situation. That's how God removes the defective character, is through me living compassionately in that situation. There's a whole range of things you can do. You can hope they have a great day. When I was applying the 12 steps to business, one thing I would do in that situation was, could I refer business to that competitor if I thought that competitor would do a better job? Wow. In that situation. Huh. That is applying love to the situation. If I'm driving, applying love to my driving is not riding so close on the person that's going slow in front of me. That's a way that we can apply compassion to a situation. What I'm doing is I'm allowing God to remove the defective character because I'm choosing love over a fearful action, like what Brian was talking about. Let's say I get in it though, and I come to myself and I'm in the middle of the situation. Where am I? I've already jumped in. Anytime for me, and this comes back to what you're talking about, Kate, if I've gone far enough to where I'm having these feelings, they're starting. We could have that either in either direction, but let's say that we're angry. I've mentioned this before. You're angry. What do you do about being angry? Now, I can't see you yelling at anybody, but I guess it's possible. How could you stop resisting the anger without acting out in that way? That would be my question. And for me, the way I do that is I just allow myself to feel it. And I just tell myself what's going on. Say, I'm angry at whoever. I'm angry at them because, and just sit with it for a minute. Not outwardly yell or throw books or ever how you act out on your anger, nor suppress it. But if I allow myself to feel what's going on, no matter what that is, instead of saying, I shouldn't feel this way, just allow it, allow the feeling, those emotions go much faster than if I'm pushing them down. Does that make sense? Have any of y'all experienced that?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. How do you distinguish the difference between allowing yourself to feel the anger and you acting out on the anger? What's the difference? Because it could be interpreted as the same thing.
If I am allowing myself to feel the anger, I don't have to take any actions, just feeling the anger. I can sit here and feel my anger and think about, oh, I'm mad about that. It is taking a step, noticing I'm angry. My body is angry, like my heart is racing. My face is probably red. It feels red. I'm angry. Without the taking action on that anger would be like standing up, yelling at somebody, standing up, like racing out of the room, like slamming the door. Those would all be taking actions on my anger, whereas just feeling my anger would be, I could just experiencing it inside myself.
And have you found that when you allow yourself to experience it, that it goes away pretty quick?
It can. Sometimes I feel that I do have to say something in some situations, but I don't have to yell at somebody. I can say something respectfully and politely in response to something someone said. Then
You're
it goes
really,
away immediately, usually.
yeah. And you're bypassing the anger itself, right? You're not like,
Right.
I can never respond when I'm angry as well as I can when I'm not on that high emotion.
And if I can take that little step back and notice, okay, my body is angry. They said this to me. That pushed that button. I would like to respond with this. If I can take that little step back from things instead of just being like, wow, I'm mad, I'm going to respond right now. Rawr. That separation of that tight, it's just a little tiny separation, but that allows me to respond with a higher self is more involved. I'm more connected with my higher power when I'm thinking those things than when I'm just acting from the emotion and not acting from the stepping back from the emotion.
And for me, if I can add, why am I angry at this? What am I afraid of? If I can get that in there, sometimes I can't. But if I can, then I have a much better chance of responding either correctly or not responding at all or not responding as badly.
Because if I can say that was offensive to me that you just said that to me,
Yeah.
usually that's enough to get my anger to dissipate. And
Mm-hmm.
often the person would say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that offensively to you. I meant this. Or they'll say, wow, I've never thought about that as being offensive. I'll think about that.
Or the response I get, you're an asshole.
I never get that response.
I know you don't. I wouldn't think so at all. That's good, Kate. Thank you. Thank you. Libby.
So you're asking about anger. Another way in my personality is to look at anger and also at resentment and also at shame with the same viewpoint. A lot of the Tao verses about this step, it seems to me like the center point of it is more strong than the exact verse. But one of the ones that I always come back to is number 32. And it starts out by saying the Tao is unchanging. And these things, these angers, these shame, those are very changing. Like they change me, they change how the whole world looks to me. So if I've gotten into the anger or shame or certain other emotions, I'm disconnected from my true self and from the Tao. And the end of that verse says that all things end in the Tao, just as small streams and the largest rivers flow through the valleys to the sea. It takes power away from the huge emotion. The more you're spending your day being grateful, and the more you're spending your day aware that everything is one and came together, and that this is just a passing weather form. The way I have respect for my anger or my shame is to try and find out, like, what is this shame trying to tell me? Why am I ashamed? And usually what happened is that there is a point to it, but I'm exaggerating the point, and I just need to identify the point and then tell it, I got it, I understand. Now be quiet and Let's start flowing into the sea.
Thank you, Libby. Step 6, 2, framing it in the Tao, is about emptiness. It's about becoming empty, allowing yourself to be emptied, I guess be a better way to say it. Because step 7 is adding those things we're not doing. We can't add if we're not empty, right? So 6 is the removal and 7 is the addition. I like verse 48. This is Stephen Mitchell. In pursuit of knowledge, every day something's added. In the practice of the Tao, every day something's dropped. Less and less do you need to force things until finally you arrive at non-action. When nothing's done, nothing is left undone. I would say when nothing's done from selfishness, dishonesty, and resentment, there's nothing to undo. True mastery can be gained by letting things go their own way. It can't be gained by interfering. Letting things go their own way. Am I ready for loving actions to remove all these defects of character? Am I open to these possibilities? Can I see this differently? Any other texts, guys?
I'm just gonna say that this week I go home to my home after I've been away for a long while, having a broken back. I've been staying with my sister. I've written down verse 12, which I already read, so I won't read it again. And I'm gonna take it out whenever I get over emotional or upset about things. It will remind me to take that step back and look at things more in an observation of the world and allow things to come and go and be open.
Thank you, Kate. I'm a big believer in posting and having things that you can look at that encourage you. I have I'm monitoring an old computer up that all it does is rotate as a screensaver a lot of different quotes that encourage me. It's rotating right now and it rotates 24 hours a day. I just leave it up and let it rotate. It was an old Windows 7 computer I had. I said, let me put you to use. I just set it up and leave it, and it just runs all the time. And it's got all kinds of quotes that speak to me. And occasionally I'll drop a couple and then I'll add something else. Yeah, I think that's super important, Kate. Thank you. I also put quotes in my calendar, my Google Calendar, that will run a couple of times in the morning early or at night. When I'm going to meditate, I'll take a look at it and see if it's something I need to think on a little.
I
Brian?
didn't know it did that.
Yeah,
That's
you
good
can
to know.
you can take a screensaver and say you want the screensaver to pull pictures, and then you can take a folder and save those as pictures and put them in a folder, and then it'll rotate those. I also have a background on my phone I've had for a while that says the highest good is not to seek to do good, but to allow yourself to become it. That's the background on my phone. Maybe I do too much of that. Anything else a little good, a lot's even better. Brian?
I've heard of people doing vision boards. I have a surrender board. I just took different pieces and different things that meant something to me and different quotes. And that's been good for me. But back to the phone piece in my calendar, I get 2 reminders every day. And one of them is the thank you for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever. I think that comes up at about 5 o'clock in the morning. And then I have another one that just says, thank you, it is enough. And that just reminds me of that it's enough.
Yeah.
Keep my ego out of it.
And enough doesn't mean barely scraping by. It
No,
means what I have is exactly what I need.
what I need. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it.
Hey, Brian.
Oh,
Yeah. Can I step out of the way when these defects start arising? Is there a way that I can get love into the situation, compassion, some kind of consideration, some kind of helpfulness? Doesn't have to be overt. It can be little things. Y'all know I had a big aversion to Walmart. I didn't like Walmart. I got angry almost every time I went to Walmart. That's crazy, isn't it? To allow a place to affect how you feel. What started happening was there'd be trash on the way into Walmart. In my path, there would be trash. I'm not saying off somewhere. I mean, I have to walk over it. So I started picking it up and putting it in the trash can. And I noticed that when I started doing that, that my trip to Walmart went better. I wasn't as judgmental. I wasn't all those things that I like to bring out, the bad things that I dislike. And that's the kind of things I'm talking about. Am I open when I'm in a situation to be of service in some small way? Am I open to that? If I wasn't open to that, I wouldn't have even seen those things and I'd have been fussing and cussing the whole time. And me being open allowed me to see it, allow me to see ways to have that defect removed in that instance for me. It wasn't me trying hard. It was me taking that contrary action to what I wanted to take. I want to say of them, they got employees, sorry asses should be out here instead of standing around talking. I could go just all down and I'm gone. There I go. Instead, I just, let me pick this up. It doesn't matter. If I'm open, those situations arise for me. Anything else, guys, before we close? If there's nothing else, you guys have a great week and hope to see you next week. Thank you.
Hello, this is Buddy C. I wanted to make you aware of several recovery-related resources that I've posted in the episode description. These resources include a list of recovery podcasts, a free sober meditation app, daily recovery email, shared Google recovery calendars. Hope you put some of these resources to use and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends in recovery.